Welcome to this short presentation on the Cha-Cha from the Symphonic Dances from West Side Story written by Leonard Bernstein. This is the last set work from the A2 Music for Orchestra unit, and we will just be looking at the first movement of this, which is the Cha-Cha. In total you have to study 3 movements: the Cha-Cha, the meeting scene and the cool fugue. Each of the set works that you have studied has focused on a particular style of 20th century music: Impressionism, Neoclassicism and Nationalism. And Leonard Bernstein's is no different. This time you have to focus on the use of popular music styles influenced in orchestral music. In this set work you can actually see 2 styles, Latin American styles and also jazz, but within the Cha-Cha it's really just the influence of Latin American music which you can hear. The Cha-Cha is obviously a dance that originated in Latin America as well, and it's notable for its cha-cha-cha rhythms, which are really 3 consecutive quaver beats. And again, if you look at Wikipedia on the Cha-Cha, you'll be able to see some more information on that and the origins of the dance, the basic steps, and some more about the rhythms. But you just need to remember that it's a rhythm of cha-cha-cha, and you will recognise it, no problems. Let's have a listen to the Cha-Cha and follow the score. One of the first things which might strike you about this piece of music is the sheer size of the orchestra. On this page we can't even see the full orchestra yet, but we can look and see that there's a wide range of instruments. In terms of woodwind, we have a bass clarinet in B flat, a pair of bassoons, 4 horns, you can tell there's 4, it says 1, 3, 2, 4 there. We have in the percussion section so far finger cymbals, maracas, bongos, timbale, which are a type of sort of shallow drum from Cuba. Now they actually don't make an appearance in the Cha-Cha, that's from a previous movement. We have the vibraphone, a piano, a harp. Looking further down then we all have a full string section as well. So a very large orchestra. The musical material from this movement is taken mostly from the song Maria, and you will see then quite a lot of use of the tritone and semitone idea that makes up the term Maria. Maria. So the music starts off with a 4-bar introduction which really features bassoon, bass clarinet, harp, if we look down later on, who are playing harmonics here, and lower strings. And you can see the cellos are playing divise, they're split into a couple of different groups, and some are playing harmonics, and there's again instructions on which string to play those on and so on, as well as violas, and some are playing in a pizzicato sound. So the introduction lasts for 4 bars, and from the outset it is very dance-like. You have syncopation, and you can see it in a couple of different ways. You can see here there's an accent on the second beat of the bar, and so on. And also if we look a wee bit closer, you can see that we also have tied notes in the main bass clarinet part as well. If we look at the key signature, we'll just look down at the strings because they always have the right key. Some of the wind and brass instruments sometimes are transposing, so it's best to look at the strings. We can see that the key here is G major, and if we just look at some of the bass notes, we are on G, so it is in G major. What is unusual though is that we have a lot of C sharps here. We can only see 1 in the cellos there, but if we look up a bit further into the bass clarinet part, you'll also see D sharps. Now they really sound like C sharps. Remember that the bass clarinet is also a transposing instrument. So G major with lots of C sharps, which is a bit unusual. However, now that we know that the tritone features in a lot of 20th century music, it might not strike you as that unusual. So from G, which is the tonic, to C sharp, that forms a tritone. Looking on to the next page then, we will see the start of the melody proper, and that comes after the 4-bar introduction in the bass clarinet and bassoon. And we can see it starting here in bar 549. So, again, it has a lot of syncopation in it. You can see that already from the accents. Da, dee, da, dun, dun. And again, it is made up of the Maria motif. G to C sharp is a tritone, and C sharp and D sharp form a semitone. So it all really features the tritone and semitone. The texture here is very light and dry. If we just look at the combination of instruments and who is playing, we have 3 flutes, first of all. So they're playing very high pitched and very staccato, so a very light and dry sound. We have tambourine. Looking down further, we have high pitched piano chords. There's no left hand in the piano there. And again, this you can see the terms light and dry written down there by Bernstein. We have some sort of a shifting pattern in the harp going on. We have very high pitched violins, and again you can see violin ones here have been split up into 4 different groups. And looking on down, we also have this kind of shifting arpeggiated idea that we saw in the harps, also in the lower strings. So overall the texture is very light and dry, very delicate sound to tie in with the sense of a dance. The melody itself is in 6-bar phrases. We can only see a little bit of it here. It's really not that complicated, nor is the harmony. So it starts here. Dun 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 dun. Harmony isn't really that complicated. We're on a chord of G here with added C sharps, and we are on a first inversion chord of D here. So not too complicated. It carries on then dun 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 dun, and the phrase ends with a cha-cha-cha rhythm, which you will be able to see just over the page. Another feature of the melody, which I would just like to point out now, is that it also features a little bit of ornamentation. You can see some grace notes, acciacatures, included here. At the moment it's not in the string parts, but you can see it in the wind. Just looking down at this page of the instrumentation, just to see if we have any new instruments added in. Again, we have 3 flutes, a clarinet in B flat, bass clarinet, bassoon 1 is in at the minute, but we know that there are 2. There's percussion, finger cymbals, tambourines, small maracas. Now the maracas are obviously a big influence from the Latin American music, which this is based on. We also have piano, harp, and you can see just how much divise is happening in the strings. First violin split up into 4 different parts, violas, cellos into 2 parts, and double basses as well. Okay, carrying on with the tune then. The second phrase starts in bar 555. Well, it's really a little excerpt of an introduction at 555 for 2 bars. Just here you can see that dee 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 dum bum bum. That's the same as the introduction. And then the next phrase of the tune starts here. Just notice as well what it says here, pick. And that is an instruction for the 3rd flute player to actually not play flute, but to play the piccolo, and that is something that happens quite often in orchestras. Have a look at the percussion. We have finger cymbals playing on the 2nd beat of the bar, so that's syncopated, and the tambourine also has syncopation and accents as well. We'll just have a look down the page to see if there are anything else which is happening which is interesting in terms of instrumentation. Here you can see again some harmonics in the harp part. And looking further down, we can also see the use of harmonics in the violas and the cellos as well. And just in case you needed reminding, we know that they are harmonics because they have these little 0 signs on top of them. So, in bar 557 then, we see the return of the main melody, and again we're in and around the chord of G, and here we're moving to a first inversion chord of D major as well. Let's just look over the page to see if and how the melody is developed. Over the page we can see that the melody is roughly the sort of the same rhythms and so on. Da 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 dum dun 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 dun. And just like the first phrase finished with the cha-cha-cha rhythms, here we can see the cha-cha-cha rhythms as well. However, we have changed key, just briefly, and what we need to do is be able to figure out the key in this part of this bar here. We'll just maybe look down into the string parts. Yep, they have the same notes. So I'm going to give you a minute and see if you can figure out what this chord is. I would advise you maybe to stop the video and have a good look at the notes and have a good look at it. Okay, I'm going to move on now, so if you want a bit more time, stop the video and see what chord you get. But those of you who maybe have got it will see that it's a chord of F sharp minor. So we just briefly move to a minor key. From bar 5, 6, 3, there is a big change in a lot of ways. It's really a change in mood, and it's really created through a big change in orchestration as well. If you look at the percussion section, you will see that we now have a snare drum included, and it starts to play just before bar 5, 6, 3, and that's one of the main reasons why it sounds like a new change of mood. You can see some rolls there and lots of ornamentation in the snare drum part. As well as that, the strings now for the first time in the cha-cha are playing arco, and it's a much stronger texture with a lot more depth, and we have definitely moved away from the light and dry sound that Bernstein was trying to create earlier on in the cha-cha. This is a new melody or sort of still from the Maria song, but we haven't heard it yet in the cha-cha, and it's characterised by shifting accents. So it goes da la da da la da da la da 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 da. So it's used a lot of syncopation, but where the syncopation happens in the bar changes as it happens. So shifting accents. The key has also changed. We briefly finished on F sharp minor there, which you found out. And this key, you'll be able to tell from the bass, is C major briefly. So this is the subdominant of G major, which is where we started. And it is also important to look at who is actually playing the tune. So we can see that it is the violins, first violins and second violins, that have the rhythm of the tune. And in addition to that, we can also see the tune in the flutes and oboe, and you'll see the addition of an English horn, or a cor anglais as it's more commonly known, here as well. So a lot of instruments playing the first half of this phrase, and we need to look over the page to see who finishes it off. And when we look over the page, we can see quite clearly that it is the solo oboe which finishes off that tune. So the main strings and woodwind play da la da da la da da la da 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 da, and then the oboe plays da 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 da. You may recall that that phrase started in C major, and if we just have a look at the first bar on this page, we'll see that it's really a sort of a descending harmonic sequence. We went from C major, and in this bar we are in B minor. You can see B's and F's, and also we have D natural, so that's B minor. And in this bar then we are on a chord of D, and finally that is a chord of A. So that's a bit of a perfect cadence, D into A major then. And that is really the end of the cha-cha, and there's a sort of a motif which leads us into the meeting scene then. Like the cha-cha, the thematic material from the meeting scene relies heavily on the song Maria, and we'll be able to see that already. If we look, we have A to D sharp to E here in these motifs that the violins play. Da, da, da. We can also see it in the vibraphone. They're playing repeated quavers, but essentially it's the same motif. We have a new instrument which is a celesta. It sounds a little bit like a jewellery box. You should be able to Google that and see what it looks like. A very small piano. We have the harp, which plays that, and obviously the full string section, and you can just see the beginning of what will be a solo violin into the meeting scene, and no woodwind. So that is the cha-cha. Most important things to remember about this cha-cha that you will need to learn are the use of the tritone and semitone motif taken from the Maria song, West Side Story, 6-bar phrases, Latin American instrumentation, especially maracas, finger cymbals, tambourine, snare drum, and some of the characteristics of the melody, so syncopation, shifting accents, and also the big change in mood and orchestration which happens about halfway through.